AITA for moving out to show my girlfriend my boundaries are non-negotiable too? My name is Brandon. I am 30 years old. I work as a logistics coordinator for a regional distribution company. It is a stable position, almost routine in its structure. I like when everything runs smoothly and according to plan. I pay my bills on time. I watch my spending carefully, and I do not appreciate chaos entering my living space. My girlfriend Allison is 27 years old. She works in event marketing. We have been together for a little over 2 years and have been living together for about 14 months in a 2-bedroom apartment right in the downtown area. Both of our names are on the lease agreement. The rent is not cheap, but we had agreed to split everything equally. At least, that was the initial plan. Allison has a strong personality. That is the polite way of saying it. She is self-confident, expressive, and above all, used to getting what she wants. At first, I thought it was just ambition. Over time, I realized it was more about control. Her ex, Logan, had never completely left the picture. They had been together for 3 years before me. According to her, he lacked emotional maturity and could not handle her. But his name came up in conversations often, always as an example of her own personal growth. About 1 month ago, she started mentioning that Logan was going through a difficult time. Apparently, he had a disagreement with his roommate. Then that disagreement led to an eviction. Next, he found himself temporarily staying on a friend's couch. I did not pay much attention to it. It was not my concern. Last Tuesday evening, I came home from work and found her sitting at the kitchen island, her laptop open in front of her. She had that specific expression she gets when she has already made up her mind. "We need to talk," she said. I thought it would be something usual, like a job change, a money issue, or an everyday topic. But what she said next took me by surprise. "Logan is moving in here, and there is nothing to discuss. It is temporary, so do not make a big deal out of it." At first, I laughed. I honestly thought she was joking. It was not a joke. She explained that he would take the guest room, that it would only be for a few weeks, and that I needed to be mature enough to understand helping someone who was struggling. That is what decent people do. I asked her when this decision had been made. She replied, "Just today." I asked her why I had not been consulted. She rolled her eyes. "Why do you always overreact?" That was when I understood. It was not a discussion. It was an announcement. I responded calmly. "I do not live in a place where I have no say." Then I added, "If he moves in here without discussion, then my moving out is not up for discussion either." She gave a confident smile, as if I were bluffing. I was not bluffing. I did not throw anything. I did not insult her. I did not even raise my voice. I simply asked one last question. "When is he arriving?" She shrugged. "Friday." It was Tuesday. She had already given him her approval. Apparently, she had also told him that I would understand because I am reasonable. That word reasonable. Translation, easygoing. I asked her if she had at least explained to him that both of our names were on the lease. She waved the question away. "That is not a problem. The property manager likes me. Do not make things complicated." That is when I realized it had nothing to do with helping. It was about control. She had made a decision about our shared living space and only informed me afterward. So, I simply said, "Very well." She blinked. "And if he arrives on Friday, I will be gone by Thursday night." She rolled her eyes and smirked. "Are you really going to do that?" "Oh no," I replied. "I am consistent. You said there was no discussion." I agree. She did not believe I was serious. She went back to her computer as if everything had been settled. The next morning, I called the property management office. I asked what the process was to remove myself from a joint lease. They explained that it required the signatures of both parties as well as the remaining tenant qualifying with proper documentation. Interesting. I did not say anything to Allison. Instead, I rented a U-Haul truck for Thursday afternoon. It was non-refundable. I also called a good friend who had a spare bedroom. I asked if I could stay there for a few weeks. He agreed without hesitation. By Wednesday evening, most of my belongings were already packed in the guest room. It is funny how that space stopped feeling neutral right away. She noticed the boxes. "What are you doing?" I gave her the exact answer I had announced. She scoffed. "Are you really going to leave over this?" "I am not leaving over this. I am leaving because you told me I had no say in my own home." She tried to turn the situation around. "So you are punishing me because I am helping someone?" I replied that if she wanted to help her ex, it was her choice, but I would not live with him. She became very upset. She accused me of being insecure. But I am not naive either. By Thursday afternoon, she was more irritated than upset. She still thought I would calm down. Then at 6 in the evening, the truck parked in front of the building, and that was when everything shifted. Allison was near the window when she saw it. Her expression changed from irritation to confusion. Did you really rent a truck? Yes. What for? To move my things out. She followed me down the stairs as if she were watching a performance. The representative handed me the keys. I signed and started loading the boxes. That was the moment she changed her tone. Brandon, stop this. This is ridiculous. He is just going to stay in the guest room. I did not answer. I carried my office chair down the stairs. Then she said what she really thought. You are embarrassing me. Because she had already told Logan that I was okay with it. She had probably presented me as someone understanding, modern, and open-minded. While I was loading the truck, she tried to call him. I could hear her pacing inside, speaking in a low but frustrated voice. On my third trip, she came out. He has nowhere to go? You are making this more complicated than it needs to be. I answered calmly that I was not preventing her from helping him. I was simply removing myself from a situation I had not agreed to. She crossed her arms. You are exaggerating. It is temporary. Temporary does not mean optional for me. Then I added something that changed the atmosphere. I reminded her that both of our names were on the lease and that moving someone in without proper authorization could create issues with the lease terms. She paused for a moment. It will not be a problem, she replied quickly. Maybe. Maybe not. I did not threaten anything. I simply stated the facts. By 9 in the evening, my half of the apartment was empty. The couch, the television, the bed, the table, everything that was mine was gone. The place immediately felt different. She stood in the middle of the living room. So, you are just leaving me like this? No, I replied. I am stepping away as you indicated. She did not like that phrasing. As I was leaving, she sent me a message. You are going to regret this. I did not reply because there was one thing she had not expected. Removing my name from the lease was not something she could do alone. It required her cooperation. And Friday was less than 24 hours away. On Friday morning, I woke up on my friend's couch to 12 missed calls. All from Allison. I did not listen to the voicemails. Instead, I called the property management office directly. I explained that I was officially vacating the unit and wanted to begin the process of being removed from the lease. Then I asked a straightforward question. What happens if an additional occupant moves in without written approval? The manager did not hesitate. It is a violation of the lease terms. It could lead to immediate notice. I thanked her and hung up. About 10 minutes later, Allison stopped calling and sent a text. Logan is here. We need to talk about the lease. I did not reply. Another message came in. The property manager says we both need to sign paperwork. Silence from me. Then the tone shifted. Why did you call them without telling me? So she knew. I had done exactly what I had said I would do. I had removed myself without leaving my name attached to a situation I did not accept. In the afternoon, I sent a clear, calm message. I am withdrawing from the lease. I will not be financially responsible for a third occupant I did not agree to. I will sign the release once you qualify on your own or properly add him. Then I blocked her. Phone, social media, everything. Not out of anger, but for peace of mind. If she wanted non-negotiable decisions, she was going to receive them with no additional discussion. An hour later, an unknown number tried to call me. Logan. Blocked. Another number, blocked as well. I was not going to engage in a three-way conversation over an apartment I no longer lived in. On Saturday morning, mutual friends started messaging me. Apparently, Logan did not meet the requirements. His credit history was not strong, and Allison alone did not meet the building's income requirements without additional support. The property management had given them two options: provide complete and compliant documentation or face lease issues. And since I had already started the process of leaving, things were moving forward. Allison left a long message through a mutual friend, asking them to relay it to me. She said I was making things difficult for her, that I was being difficult, and that real couples do not leave at the first sign of a challenge. I asked that friend to reply with one sentence on my behalf. Real couples do not move their exes in without discussion. After that, nothing direct. But the information kept coming. Logan was not happy about all the paperwork. He thought he would just stay for a short time. Clearly, non-negotiable felt different when it involved a signed agreement. And for the first time since Tuesday, Allison was no longer directing the situation. She was dealing with the consequences without me there. The following Monday, all the pressure was on her. I had no more direct contact, but our mutual friends kept sharing updates. Logan had officially moved in on Friday night. A mattress on the floor in the guest room, 2 duffel bags, and a lot of optimism about a fresh start. He had walked in expecting an easy solution. He found a lease compliance notice instead. The property management had sent a formal letter requesting the necessary documents right away. Without a response, a lease review would be triggered. In simple terms, there were serious issues to address. Allison tried to downplay the situation at first. She explained to Logan that I had overreacted, that I had intentionally made things complicated, and that it was just some paperwork. But paperwork involves specific requirements, and those do not change based on attitude. She either had to qualify on her own or officially add Logan, which meant a credit check, proof of income, and application fees. Logan did not like that. He thought he was staying for a few weeks, not taking on a longer financial commitment. Their first significant disagreement happened in less than 48 hours. It is interesting how the urgency of helping someone fades when legal and financial terms enter the picture. Midweek, I received an email directly from the property manager, not from Allison. It stated that Allison had submitted the documents to remove me from the lease and keep the apartment with an additional occupant pending approval. Translation: she needed me fully out to stabilize things. I signed the release digitally that same day. Clean, clear, and final, with no additional comments. Apparently, that surprised her. She thought I would prolong the process to keep some control, but no. I had followed through exactly as I said I would. And that was where the oversight happened. Once my name was removed, the question of the security deposit arose. Half of it legally belonged to me, and property management does not automatically reallocate deposits when tenants change during a lease. Allison therefore had to return my share. Logan, from what I heard, did not offer to contribute. On Thursday night, a real disagreement broke out. Over finances, what had been presented as non-negotiable suddenly became open for discussion. On my side, I had already settled into a small studio apartment on the other side of town. I signed a 6-month lease in a quiet building with no drama. Block numbers stayed blocked, but word always travels. Allison was telling people that I had run away from the situation. That is interesting because I did not run. I simply refused to live with her ex. And now, she was learning that announcements do not replace legal agreements. Reality requires documentation, and documents do not bend to confident attitudes. By the second week, the tone had shifted. Less assured, more strained. I did not hear it directly, but the updates were clear. The property management had approved Logan on a conditional basis. His credit was average, but Allison had agreed to an increased security deposit and stricter terms on payments. This meant 2 things. She had to cover my former portion right away, and any delay could lead to serious consequences. A lot of pressure for something described as temporary. The first rent payment cycle came sooner than expected. With me, it had always been straightforward. Reliable income, automatic payments, clear calculations. With Logan, it was less reliable. He was between projects as a freelance designer, with pending payments and unclear timelines. Allison began sharing her stress with mutual friends. She said she felt overwhelmed. She said I had left her in a difficult position and could have at least given her more time. Time for what? To gradually adjust to having her ex move in. Meanwhile, I was getting comfortable in my studio. It was not fancy, but it was peaceful. Quiet mornings, no tension in the shared spaces, and no uncertainty about unexpected changes. 3 weeks later, I received an unexpected call. Not from her, but from the property manager in a professional tone. A simple question. Have you completely moved out of the unit? Yes. Good. We have received noise complaints. We wanted to confirm you were no longer living there. Noise complaints. Interesting. Logan had been having friends over, with late nights, music, and activity on the balcony. The building had always been strict about quiet hours. Allison herself used to comment on noise after 10 at night. Now, she was the one receiving official warnings. Then something significant happened. The rent was paid 2 days late. 2 days. But with their new terms, that triggered an official notice. Allison was upset. She said the management was being unreasonable and that I had contributed to her current challenges. I had not done anything except step away from an arrangement I had not agreed to. The rest followed from the choices made. By the end of the month, Logan was already talking about creating some distance. He said the pressure was too much, that living together had shown incompatibilities. Incompatibilities. After 4 weeks, non-negotiable decisions can feel empowering until the real-world results appear. And the results carried her signature. Not mine. By the second month, the situation became more predictable, less intense, more straightforward. Allison's social media posts changed. Fewer highlights of successes, more reflections on resilience and navigating tough times. Translation: things were not going as expected. Logan was still between projects. Payments were inconsistent. Allison was covering most of the costs. The disagreements became more frequent. Money highlights underlying issues. She had presented him as someone who needed support. But providing that support is easier in theory than when the bills arrive each month. She started trying to create structure, budgets, timelines, expectations for work. Logan did not respond well to it. He had wanted a place to stay without added responsibilities. Then the property management added a requirement for automatic payments. No more verbal promises. Direct debit from the account. Logan did not take it well. He felt like he was being treated as a problem, which, in practical terms, the financial side had become. The noise complaints continued. A formal warning was placed on their door. 3 violations could lead to lease termination. The non-negotiable felt strong until it appeared as an official notice. I was in a stable place, with rent paid on time, no conflicts, no surprises, and no ongoing drama. One evening, about 9 weeks after I moved out, I ran into Allison while I was out running errands. She looked tired, not disheveled, but worn out. She tried to keep the conversation light. "So, are you happy now?" That question revealed a lot. Not asking how I was doing or if I missed anything. Happy now? As if this had been about getting even. I responded calmly. I was not trying to win anything. I had simply refused a situation I had not accepted. She said she and Logan were figuring things out. Interesting choice of words. As if it were still a project to manage. I did not ask further questions. I did not need to. This was not really a story about Logan. It was about making major decisions unilaterally in a shared life. When someone says there is no discussion in a shared space, reality responds with its own set of rules, and those rules come with deadlines, not opinions. Not with a dramatic scene, but in the expected way. The third rent cycle under the new strict terms arrived. This time, it was not 2 days late. It was 5 days late. 5 days was enough to trigger a formal review for lease violation. From what I heard, the property manager scheduled a meeting. Not a casual talk, but an official one. Allison attended alone. Logan supposedly had a work commitment. That detail said enough. The manager reviewed the situation, the previous late payments, and the ongoing noise complaints. Several documented warnings. Then options were presented. Bring everything current immediately and commit to no further issues, or pursue a voluntary lease termination to avoid a more formal process. Voluntary termination sounds cleaner, but it still means leaving before being required to do so. Logan, according to the updates, did not handle it well. He blamed Allison for trying to make everything official and for pushing to add him to the lease instead of keeping things informal. She, in turn, pointed out his lack of financial follow-through. They were both seeing parts of the truth. That is often what happens when a living arrangement begins as a reaction rather than a mutual agreement. Before the end of the week, they had ended things again. Logan said the apartment had become too stressful, that she was becoming too controlling, and that he had not signed up for that level of pressure. Allison reminded him that she had helped him when others had not. But past help does not cover current responsibilities. The final development came quietly. A friend mentioned that Allison was moving out. The lease termination had been signed. Part of the security deposit was affected due to the issues. As for Logan, he went back to staying on friends' couches. The apartment she had insisted was non-negotiable was no longer hers. I did not celebrate. I did not feel triumphant. I felt that my decision had been confirmed as the right one. When someone makes decisions alone in a shared life, they often believe control will bring stability. It does not. Control without agreement only speeds up the outcomes. And outcomes do not care about intentions. They simply follow the terms that were signed. About 1 month later, I met someone. Not on purpose, not to replace anything, but naturally. Her name is Paige. She is 28 years old. She works in healthcare administration. We met because she moved into the apartment across the hall. The building is quiet. People focus on their own lives. Our first conversation was about a package that had been delivered to the wrong door. The second was over coffee. What stood out immediately was not just the connection, but the approach. When we talked, there was no tension, no power dynamics, no tests, just a normal, adult conversation. After a few weeks of spending time together casually, she asked me a straightforward question. So, what happened in your last relationship? I did not exaggerate it. I simply said, my ex made a major decision about our living situation without any discussion. So I moved out. Paige paused. Then she replied, that makes sense. No judgment, no heavy sigh, no attempt to paint me as the issue. That response alone felt refreshing. One evening, while we were preparing dinner at her place, she mentioned her own ex. He had recently reached out to meet for coffee. I asked what she had said. She replied, I told him that it was not respectful of where I am now. Simple, direct, no long explanation, just a clear boundary. That was when I realized how much strain I had been carrying before. One night, she asked me if I could see myself in a larger place once my lease ended. She asked the question without pressure. And when I said it was possible, but that we would need to discuss it properly if the time came, she simply nodded. No sarcasm, no demands. Meanwhile, I heard that Allison was temporarily staying with a friend. Logan was no longer part of the situation. The old apartment had been listed again. The non-negotiable had become something replaceable. I do not harbor resentment toward her, and I do not regret moving out. If I have one regret, it is that I nearly stayed just to make a point. Because the truth is straightforward. The moment someone tells you there is no discussion in a shared life, the real discussion has already ended. You are left with one choice. Stay to see how it unfolds. Or leave. I left, and for the first time in a long while, my living space is calm. No surprises, no unchosen roommates. Just doors that open when both people agree. 6 months after loading my belongings into that U-Haul, everything had settled. With Paige, we did not rush. No big statements, no sudden changes, just regular weekends together, shopping for groceries, and calm conversations about work and what might come next. When my studio lease was ending, she asked me, "What are you thinking?" Just this. No pressure, no expectations. We sat at her kitchen table and had a real conversation about it. Budget, location, commute, expectations for personal space. 45 minutes of discussion with no tension, no sarcasm, and no unilateral demands. We decided to find a new apartment together, a larger one, neutral, with both our names on the lease, clear agreements, and straightforward, mature terms. During that period, Allison's situation continued to unfold. She moved twice in 3 months, first to a friend's place, then to a smaller apartment farther from downtown. Logan briefly reappeared before fading away again. As often happens when finances and responsibilities become central, the property management had already rented out the old unit to new tenants. A new chapter for that space. One day, I received a message request on LinkedIn. Not a direct message from her, but a short note. I was wrong. I thought you would stay. That was all. No full apology, no deep reflection, just an acknowledgement. She had believed I would not follow through, and that had been the core issue. She thought I would argue, adapt, tolerate, or negotiate. She believed non-negotiable only applied in one direction. But the moment she said there is no discussion, she removed the foundation that makes a shared life work, mutual agreement. I did not fight her decision. I matched it. She said he is moving in. I said my departure is too. And that was it. The non-negotiable does not create a scene. It is not dramatic. It is quiet. It is a document signed without delay. A key returned without a long speech. A truck loaded while someone watches from the window wondering if it is a bluff. I was not bluffing. And in the end, the only thing truly non-negotiable was reality. Rent is due on time. Contracts are enforced. People are approved or not based on the terms. And sometimes, when someone tells you there is no discussion, the clearest response is to step out of the situation entirely. Comment: this one really hit close to home for me. I believe protecting your peace is one of the most important things you can do for yourself. Setting clear boundaries is not selfish. It is an expression of self-respect. It is okay to be kind and helpful, but never at the expense of your own well-being. Taking responsibility for your happiness often means making tough but necessary choices. True healing starts when we stop tolerating what disrupts our inner calm. You deserve to be in spaces where your needs are heard and respected. Learning to choose peace over pressure is a powerful form of growth. I hope this story inspires you to reflect on your own boundaries and what truly brings you balance. Remember, you are worthy of relationships built on mutual respect and understanding. If you like the stories, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.